Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 10a. Lake of Gennesaret. Great catch of fish. One day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, with the people crowding around him and listening to the word of God, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats, left there by the fishermen, who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. They came and filled both boats, so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken, and so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Matthew chapter 4, verses 18 through 22. Mark chapter 1, verses 16 through 20. And Luke chapter 5, verse 10b and 11. Simon, Andrew, James, and John. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you will catch men." "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will make you fishers of men." At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Mark chapter 1, verses 21 and 22. Luke chapter 4, verses 31 and 32. Capernaum. Jesus teaches at Capernaum. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. The people were amazed at his teaching, because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Mark chapter 1, verses 23 through 28. Luke chapter 4, verses 33 through 37. Unclean spirit healed. Just then a man in their synagogue, who was possessed by an evil spirit, cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," said Jesus sternly. "Come out of him." The evil spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. The people were all so amazed that they asked each other, "What is this? A new teaching, and with authority. He even gives orders to evil spirits, and they obey him." News about him spread quickly over the whole region of Galilee. Matthew chapter 8, verses 14 and 15. Mark chapter 1, verses 29 through 31. Luke chapter 4, verses 38 and 39. Peter's mother-in-law healed. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever. They told Jesus about her. So he went to her, took her hand, and helped her up. The fever left her, and she began to wait on them. Mark chapter 8, verses 16 and 17. That was Matthew chapter 8, verses 16 and 17. Mark chapter 1, verses 32 through 34. And Luke chapter 4, verses 40 and 41. Others healed. That evening, after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. Mark chapter 1, verses 35 through 38. Jesus goes out to pray. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he had prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." Matthew chapter 4, verses 23 through 25. Mark chapter 1, verse 39. Luke chapter 4, verse 44. Galilee. Jesus travels about. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judah, and the region across the Jordan followed him.